I thought that there was no more hope for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Hot take.
But Spider-Man, of all the characters, has restored a little bit of hope for me in the MCU. We just watched the Spider-Man No Way Home film, and I guess we're going to talk about it.
This is a full spoilers discussion?
It's full spoilers.
Okay. Just want to say
because for this movie especially, right?
Especially.
How can you not? We'd be tiptoeing around pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Although, even if we just made a general review, there's going to probably be some video that's going to spoil it, like next to the video recommendations. So
yeah,
regardless, we have to spoil it.
Okay, let's go.
So Andrew and Toby are in. Yeah.
Should we do general thoughts before we get into our
Sure.
I have two perspectives of this movie, right? And with two different perspectives of this movie, I have different views, right? As a Spider-Man fan, because I'm a really hardcore Spider-Man fan, this movie is almost perfect. Like, I almost want to give it like a 95 or even 90% perfect. There is a little bit 10%, which you could be like it's minor grips, but as a Spider-Man fan, it's like, how can you have a Spider-Man that has all these Spider-Mans but does not have this aspect? But so that's my opinion as a Spider-Man fan. As someone who's in a critic, someone who's like studied film for like storytelling and whatnot, there are certain minor things in this movie that it's still enjoyable and it's still one of the most amazing experiences I had, and does not change the emotional experience I had with this movie. But there's things that make me think like I can't put it in my top 3 because like Into the Spider-Verse did this better, or even the original Sam Raimi series.
Sam Raimi,
thank you. Sam Raimi series did it better, did this as well. So I have to kind of undermine it a little bit because of that. But at the end of the day, it's an amazing movie, and the experience I had will always be something that I will remember to the day I die. So
yeah, did you practice that? That was well said. I feel very similar to exactly what you just said. Like the movie theater experience was amazing. It was great. Everyone was cheering for like every even small moments.
Yeah.
But then like the appearances of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, oh my God, everyone like going crazy.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So the experience itself was something that's unforgettable for sure. But like you said, there are some plot points. For me, it mainly has to do with Doctor Strange that I just wasn't buying. But yeah.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that there's some plot holes. We can get into that when we start talking about the details. Yeah. There are some plot holes in this movie for sure. But generally, it was fantastic. It was incredible. And honestly, for me, like, I'm struggling because this clearly has broken into my top 5 MCU movies. So I'm like trying to figure myself out. I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah, this movie needs a rewatch.
I had to rewatch it after.
And so we'll see. But
yeah.
Firm
but fair. And to be fair, like, we've all only seen it once, and OC and I are gonna watch it like immediately after this video. And I was just saying, like, I feel like I'm still absorbing it because a lot happened. And overall, like, super enjoyable. Like, if you're in there, like you said, the experience is like unforgettable. It's going to be in the history books as like one of the greatest reactions to like Marvel movies ever throughout the film. That being said, I agree. There are some like plot holes, some story stuff, small gripes here and there. It's not my top Spider-Man film yet. I mean, maybe I'll like rewatch it and change my mind, but right now I'm firm about like which ones are like my favorite Spider-Man movies.
Why not let's get into the details now and like talk about the positives first. And there's a lot. So for me, seeing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire was amazing. But the moment I saw them, I was so scared inside. I was so worried that it was just gonna be a cameo.
Oh,
like
then it was gonna close.
I was like, do not close that portal before they walk in.
Okay, here's my reason why I knew they weren't gonna do it. Besides the fact that we saw that scene where they get freaking hit, or the lizard.
Yeah.
The tone of the movie at that point, although there were some jokes, it became more dramatic.
Yes.
So because of that tone, I knew for a fact that it was not going to be like a, oh, hey, look, it's Peter.
Be like a goofy type.
But then you also paired that with like the fact that Ned can somehow open portals randomly.
which is a gripe.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Trust me, I have my gripes. I'm going there.
That's so silly.
But yes. So because of that tone, and that to me is one of the biggest highlights of this movie, is that it was able to change its tone. It was able to be like, all right, no more jokes. We can actually have dramatic. Because for the longest time with the Tom Holland series, it's been way too silly and safe. And even with the idea that what's his face, the last video, the villain Mysterio, even though he died, it wasn't like a tragedy. It's only until now. I mean, we got to the tragedy to the point where Tom Holland's like, dude, I want to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like that to me was where I was like, whoa, this is where we're starting to get into like, this is Spider-Man. That's what Spider-Man is. Spider-Man is not like, I know people think of Spider-Man as jokes, and yeah, Spider-Man loves to make humor, but it's because he's dealing with a lot of trauma and tragedy. And this is the movie that finally, for Tom Holland, hit that. So
yeah, I feel like they did the research. Like they found out what the fans' gripes were, and that's a big one. It even became like a meme, like saying like, oh, like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, like they have all these struggles, and like they're talking to Tom Holland Spider-Man, and like, oh, you've got all this, like you like know like a billionaire, and
exactly.
like you have a girlfriend that's not dead, and all that, and then it's like. It's like kind of like sad and funny, but like when we finally saw like him struggle, we're like, yes, like suffer. Like we want to see that because Peter Parker's life is not easy. It's full of hardships, and we've just been waiting this whole time.
Like it's even like the previous movies haven't even really shown his struggle like financially. Like it doesn't even seem like he's
we know Peter Parker's poor. Like we know from the comics.
Yeah.
But then like they mentioned that in this movie, it's like, oh, okay, now they like had some indications that they're not like financially well off, and they're another amazing spoiler. They have to go to Matt Murdock for legal advice, and Matt Murdock obviously he specifically goes for people who are not financially well off. So it's like those different details are great. Like they brought all those things together in.
I loved that scene. I love Charlie Cox. That was so good.
It was so good. Oh
yes.
I know that was the first time when I was like, I was screaming in the theater. Like my heart was racing.
In that moment
with that cane. Oh man,
I miss seeing him.
Oh, so good, so good. But yeah, moving on to some other positives. Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, all the villains from the previous Spider-Man movies did such a fantastic job. And specifically, I want to like highlight Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
This was another movie where Green Goblin is the bad guy. And he's causing, so good.
Again, going back to the tone shift, he's the reason why that tone shift even happened. The movie is a little bit like, literally, the movie's kind of lighthearted, even with the villains, until Willem Dafoe comes in and you feel like something's wrong. And then he really goes, no, man, it's going to go wrong. And it gets to the point that I guess we're going to go ahead, I guess, since it was spoiler, to the part where even when he's like, Peter's about to kill him, it's like we feel that like tone shift again of like, there's trauma, there's tragedy, and he carries it, and he just steals the scene, like his acting.
Yeah, he's a scene stealer. I'm always blown away by Willem Dafoe. Like I think we're all fans. Yeah. But it's crazy because like on paper and even in the Sam Raimi movies, like Green Goblin is so camp, right? But Willem Dafoe does it so well, and then the nuances of when he shifts into Green Goblin.
Oh, it's so good. Like
palpable. You can sense it. Even like when he's talking to like Doc Ock, and then he's like, "Oh, like no more like weird thoughts in your head, like only you." And then he like turns around and he's like, yeah, only me. Like you can tell like it's him, it's Green Goblin, he's back. Yes. Like you felt it in there, and it's like electricity, it sparks, and like not only that, like the physicality, the fight scenes, and we know now from Willem Dafoe in interviews, saying like I needed to do the stunts because like I feel like that makes me earn the part, right? Which is like you already own it, dude. But the fact that you're committing that much is like,
it's so crazy.
I appreciate it, and I love him.
He has one of the best lines. Like I think he was saying something about you're trying to juggle two lives, but it's like it's not going to work or something. I wish I can say the lines right, but it's like that's what I love about it, and it kind of reminds me of with the Raimi series, where it's like it's one of those things that we loved about the Raimi series, where they had these quotes that were really life-hitting quotes, And it's just like, yeah, just again, when he comes in, it feels like a different movie. Like it's no longer the same movie anymore.
He's acting circles around all of them. All of the villains that came in from other universes. It's like not even Doc Ock can compare. And I love Alfred Molina. Like it's just insane, like how good he is.
It's crazy the level, because I almost feel like this is a movie that gets better the longer you watch it.
Oh yes.
And so at the beginning, I was like, okay, typical MCU film.
Exactly.
This is good. This is like good level MCU. But then, the villains start appearing. Doc Ock appears, and then it gets better. Green Goblin appears, and then it gets better. And then Andrew Garfield is such a good actor.
He's so good. I actually forgot how good he is.
Yeah.
And then seeing him again on screen with Tom and Toby, and like Toby, who I love.
Yeah,
like
but
just seeing him act circles around them too, I was like, whoa.
It was
like
incredible.
classically trained almost.
Yes,
I don't know if he
exactly.
is or not,
Yeah,
but
he
like
is.
it feels that way. He is. Yeah,
He's like
I can see it.
No,
You can feel
he's
it.
the Oscar. He and like Willem Dafoe are like the Oscar level actors that are in this film, and you see it, like you feel it whenever they're on screen.
Exactly.
They're technical actors, and you can tell. Yeah.
I love the way they portrayed Andrew here, because it's like it made me feel sorry that I ever dissed the movies, because like literally like I literally teared up or almost pretty much teared up when he was talking about Gwen, and especially because it happened twice with the whole one. He mentions it to Peter, and you can look at his eyes. He's like, "Oh boy, don't cry."
No.
But then two, he does it again with MJ. MJ obviously.
Yeah.
And that amazing redemptive moment that like I didn't know I needed to see, but now that I've seen it, it's just like something that I'll remember and appreciate forever, because
I kind of wish people didn't predict it in the comments.
I mean, it was great
for the trailer.
Yeah, we all know it, but it was still perfect. And I think what beauty thing that also was good about this movie is that I feel like even besides the Spider-Mans, the villains, they kind of got their own character arcs. They all got their emotional problems resolved in this movie. So it's like, to some degree, it's almost like if you were the person who's watched all the movies, you kind of see where they're going to end up and see kind of their journey and how they built.
And we needed to see that because there was like unfinished business in both series, and it's like, and even now it's like tragic to think about, like, dang, like we should have got Spider-Man 4, we should have got like Amazing Spider-Man 3, and it's just all unfinished business that I didn't feel like, that I don't like think about anymore. But now I'm like, I wish we got that.
I think about it.
Yeah. No, but now it's a nice like closing of those books and
really
bookends for
is.
those. Like it is satisfying. It's for the fans, and when you're gonna do that much fan service, you got to do it right. And like they did for the most part.
This is the best use of fan service.
Oh yes.
That I've ever
Getting
seen.
emotional right now.
Like honestly, like the experience in this movie was similar to Endgame. Endgame, I think, as far as the theater experience, was a little bit bigger for me, but I think that this movie used fan service much better than Endgame did. I think Endgame was definitely like a lot of like, okay, these guys are in the fight, that guy shows up, and they contribute. But this was like Andrew and Toby were part of the story. They were supporting characters in the story, and they were helping Tom Holland. All the villains, they weren't just cameo villains, they were in the story. And you really felt that. And so this is the best use of fan service.
Yeah, I feel like this movie would not be as good as if you have not watched the previous Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I kept telling my cousin from high school, like, watch the original movies, and I actually made her watch the first one, which I'm really glad about because she got to see Willem Dafoe do his thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's the main villain, so it's almost like you don't get that bond with him if you didn't watch that first film.
Yeah, especially. And I love how they utilize the villains, like the part when Sandman comes in, because first you're like, why Sandman's gonna attack Peter? Then you realize, oh, that makes sense. He's like, what do you do to that person? Like, I love that the distrust, how it builds and whatnot.
I like how he was good at first, like trusting until that moment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like after he saw like Toby, he should have been like, oh, but he kind of kept attacking.
Yeah. Although one thing that I found was a little bit funny was Dr. Connors. Like, it just seems like he just wanted, like, I didn't feel like he had any reason to attack, but he just feel like when he came in saying, I told you there would be consequences, it just seemed like he was like, well, everyone's going to act wild. I'm just going to go wild, you know? So I thought it was funny.
I believe it. That's what I would do.
I mean, his lizard version doesn't seem to make much sense.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe I haven't.
It's pretty crazy. He just wants to turn everyone into lizards.
That's fair.
I mean, they boiled his character down to that, and it's fair. It's like true.
It was funny. Yeah, there are a lot of great moments. I think Jamie Foxx's like reimagining of that character was done very well. They did a good job of making it new, but also still reminiscent of the older character. And his acting was great as well. He kind of takes over the scenes that he's in, and I think he did a great job with that.
Yeah, I mean, he looks so much better than the blue guy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You can actually see like normal expressions and whatnot. And the voice isn't all weird.
Instead of mocap. Oh, well. Yeah, he looked good. So many good things.
Yeah, like, I mean, if we want to still can talk about good things, I think one of my favorite moments in the movie was the part when going back to the hole when he's trying to kill Green Goblin, and it's like he has the glider and he's about to stab him, but then like Toby's like the fodder and he's like, this is not what we do. This is Spider-Man. But then literally the next thing he gets stabbed, which is like, to me, that's so Spider-Man, where it's like, even when you do the right thing, you're still going to have the consequences, but the right thing is its own reward.
It's weird because honestly, this movie changed my mind while I was watching it, because at first I was like, just kill them all. I was like, just send them back. I was like kind of getting annoyed with Tom. I was like, why are you doing this? Just send them all back. And then literally, like, as I'm watching this movie and it takes me through, and I begin to like see why, like why Spider-Man is Spider-Man, because he's making this hard choice because there's still a little bit of hope for these people, even though it's not his problem, even though it's not like something that he necessarily needs to be dealing with. He feels that sense of responsibility because he has the power to change them, and there's a little bit of hope that they can be changed. But I don't know, it really was a great experience for me.
I think a big thing for me is like the ending, because now like I said, is like closing of books and all the villains. It's also like a closing of the book on Spider-Man and his cosmic like Avengers adventures. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is a very new Spider-Man that we have that's not like the other ones. I mean, the biggest reason is just he's part of the Avengers, and there's all these other characters that he's had to interact with. And I know we've complained like, oh, like Tom Holland is like not his own Spider-Man. He's had to rely on this and this and that. But like now this is basically telling us like the next arc of like Spider-Man like stories, they're gonna be Spider-Man stories. He's going back to street crime. Yeah. He's done with the nanobot suit. He made his new suit, red and blue, baby, like red and blue, baby. Like it's like so good, and like, you know, possible like Daredevil Spider-Man team up, like.
That's my favorite thing.
No, it's back to basics in the best way, and like it's what we wanted. Like we're gonna get the Spider-Man that like a lot of fans wanted now, and that's exciting, you know. And you know, it's tragic too, because now like no one knows he's Spider-Man, and we don't know, and like he lost
no one knows he's Peter Parker.
Or no one knows he's Peter Parker. Both, vice versa. But yeah, and I think that's just cool, because like we were like, oh, where's this gonna go? And even they were like, oh, are we sure we're gonna get even more Spider-Man films? But now we are. So like, and I'm happy about it. I'm excited about it for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. Like this movie, when it was first announced, even when the first trailer dropped, I wasn't excited about it.
We made a video about it. Yeah, I was excited about it.
We were.
But now I'm like, this blew my expectations out the water. But one of my favorite moments was when all three of them are talking on the rooftop.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Beautiful scene.
That scene it really stuck with me, and
It's one of the best for sure.
It's one of the best
throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then the Spider-Man swinging together, that one was another great one.
Anytime they were all in the same frame, like when the super dramatic shot was great.
Them hugging at the end.
Andrew Garfield saying like he loved them.
I
love you guys.
It's funny. It makes sense because if you think about all the Spider-Mans, he doesn't have any friends. Andrew Garfield, like, Toby still has Mary Jane, and then like obviously Tom has his friends, but Andrew is literally alone now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sad.
If you think about it.
That's true. And then and comedy was on point, of course. I mean, it is a Marvel film, so it was great. Everyone had a great quip, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, that's where I guess if we want to go to criticism,
some of the comedy sucked.
No, if we want to go to criticism,
let's go.
Okay, so since you brought up quips, that's something that, as far as my Spider-Man fanboy, I felt like maybe when they're not Spider-Man, they were doing little one-liners, but I did not feel any one-liners any time they were Spider-Mans together. Like when all three of them together, there was no little jokes, no little like, hey, what's up, Doc? Da 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 da, and like little jokes like that, which to me, I know it's such a minor thing to talk about, but it's like if you're a Spider-Man fan, that's like the biggest thing Spider-Man does. So for me to not have that, that's one thing that, and especially when you have all three of them, like I would have been okay if it's just, oh, Tom Holland doesn't do jokes, or like maybe Toby didn't really do jokes much, but it's like to have all three of them and they're all fighting villains and none of them make some little thing going on. That's like, how could that be a Spider-Man thing? So that's like on the Spider-Man fan thing. And then one more thing with the terms of the Spider-Man perspective criticism, because I have a different criticism from the movie critic sense. I found it weird that this Tom Holland series does not want to mention Uncle Ben. Like they literally have a discussion talking about Uncle Ben, but for whatever reason, Spider-Man and Tom Holland doesn't go, oh yeah, I remember Uncle Ben. It's like Uncle Ben does not exist in this universe. So it's like, bruh, give him some credit.
I came up with a theory that maybe he's still alive. Maybe in this universe, like if he would have mentioned it, right? If the same thing happened to Uncle Ben and Uncle Ben said that line, right? So maybe Uncle Ben just did not show up in his life. Maybe they divorced.
They could be saving him.
No, but my thing about that is like literally, I think it was in what's it called? Is it Far From Home? Yeah, Far From Home. The second one, yeah.
Oh, he had his luggage?
Yeah, the luggage said, oh man, so there's implication that Uncle Ben is like,
oh, that's interesting.
Within, I don't know. So I don't know this thing, but all I know is it's weird for him not to say, oh, who's Uncle Ben?
That will be revealed later.
It might. Maybe they just need to keep Marissa Tomei, Aunt May, perpetually single, so that
I get it.
Fantasy
I'm
of the older male audience.
It's just weird.
I don't know.
What?
I don't know what they're thinking.
Something you want to say?
Look, we call her Hot May for a reason. But
there's a distinct difference between this Aunt May and all the other Aunt Mays.
Yes.
And this one just so happens to be the one without an Uncle Ben. So
yes. So that's the as far as the criticism towards that. But I guess if we want to go into other criticism.
Well, I just want to say it's funny that you go into like, oh, not enough Spider-Man quips. That's like a reoccurring issue with all the Spider-Man films, though, is like none of them really have that like, oh, they didn't talk enough. Like you could say that for all of them.
I feel like Andrew Garfield's one
was probably
did
the
it
best
quite
out
a
of
lot.
all of
Yeah.
them.
Andrew Garfield definitely, as far as it's weird because I would say he's more funny, but it's not really quippy. I do think Toby has some liners. Like I remember the whole quiet junior, mommy and daddy are talking or something like that, or I'm the new sheriff in town. So he did have some. He did say that.
Camp.
It's camp, but it's part of Spider-Man. It's quips.
Yeah, it is necessary. I do agree that could have been more.
Yeah, it could have been more. But
I agree.
But for me in this one, it's even then Tom Holland, they took it out of in the second movie where there's a scene where he's there's like a bunch of he's with the police officers and he's like joking around and they took it was a deleted scene, but that scene actually had some quips.
Yeah.
So it's like
you're right.
Again, it's just weird for me to have a Spider-Man film have all them spark together and they're not quipping the villains.
Maybe that's something they'll build on because now that he has no friends, he's going to have to talk to all the villains and say funny stuff to them because he has no one to talk to.
Yeah. But I guess as far as other criticisms, because I know we want to talk about plot stuff.
Yeah. Might as well talk about Ned, right? How'd you guys feel about that?
It was weird.
So silly. Like thinking about it now too, I'm just like, that's kind of ridiculous. Why was he doing that?
It was contrived. Because I've only seen Doctor Strange once.
Yeah.
But it took him a long time to learn and how to even create a portal, and he had to like go to far off land to learn for a long time how to do that.
Yeah, big
and
plot
Ned just
convenience.
puts it on and then can do it.
I mean, if anybody can do that, then or maybe he's just special, but they never had any indication before that.
He said
some people are just special.
I mean, it's that Filipino powers, dude. I believe.
But what about the whole him being able to, stop Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange taking like, I don't know, like to the final end to get out of his web?
I liked that. I like that he was able to like use his intellect, because one of my other problems with this Tom Holland is that they haven't really, this Tom Holland Spider-Man, they haven't really focused on his genius intellect. And so the fact that they utilized that in his fight with Doctor Strange, where he's like, oh, this is just geometry. I know geometry. And he was able to do all the calculations in his head. I like that.
I get that. I just felt like for this Tom Holland, because again, going to another gripe, he was incompetent enough not to try to use his Spider-Man leverage to get them out of the college thing, which Doctor Strange goes and trolls him about it. I just felt that even if he was able to trap Doctor Strange, for Doctor Strange to be able to control that world and take him to the final scene to get out, to me is a little bit contrived. I thought it was a little bit contrived for me. So that was another thing I had, and then even the idea that Peter wasn't able to figure out the whole I can just go use the college thing was a little bit like, okay, Peter's like kind of incompetent on there. And then I know it's about helping the villains, but part of me was like, oh, I'm just gonna let a bunch of villains free and then go say to what can possibly go wrong. It's just like, even me was like, I know what they're trying to do here, but something just feels a little bit like you're like putting your hand in a stove, man. Like that's just too out of the thing. Yeah. But I think my biggest critique, and again, this is a praise on one hand of the level that the whole emotional, the whole like it becomes more emotional or more traumatic with the villains. But then it kind of sad to me to think that if it wasn't for these villains, this movie would be kind of like there would be no emotional stakes, or they can't make emotional stakes with Tom Holland because for whatever universe he's in. And that's what makes me disappointed, because it's like going back to Into the Spideyverse, which is basically the same concept. They're able to do that without us, number one, having some previous connection to those Spider-Mans, but number two, just the way that the story's written. So I think to me, that's a little bit of a gripe. And that's why I said I can't put this as my top 3 Spider-Man movies, because at the end of the day, as much as I love everything that I experienced with this movie, it still relies, the nostalgia pandering is the thing that not one is the thing that makes us excited for it, but number two, it's also the thing that creates the drama. And I feel like a story that can't create drama on itself is a little bit problematic.
Yeah, it's all about context for this film for sure. There we have our own personal connections with each and every Spider-Man that we brought into this film. And I like that you compare it to Spider-Verse. I think everyone is going to be making these comparisons anyway. Like, there are people going to say like, oh, you can't compare them, but we're comparing them because they're Spider-Man films. Like, this is like all stories that are connected. And I agree. Spider-Verse is such a good example of just like a film that anyone can pick up and watch, whoever they are, and enjoy it as a self-contained story. It's amazing. I mean, just thinking about it now, like, it's a masterpiece.
Exactly. And that one actually had quips during the fights.
Yeah, sure. Like, your parents can watch it. They'll love it. But, like, not everyone can come into No Way Home and, like, get the full depth of, like, what's going on there. Like, it's for us. It's for people our age that have seen all the films. Yeah, and, like, we're going to enjoy it the most. We're going to enjoy it at a level that a lot of other people are not going to enjoy it at.
Yeah. I guess one more minor thing is that it's weird that, because Toby and Andrew, they kind of implied that they've been in this world, but it's weird that they didn't do anything until that one point. Like, were they just trying to hide themselves?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch it because I don't understand that.
I think Toby seems like was trying to
look himself. He's trying to look for Tom Holland.
That's true, but I feel like,
how did he even see him? Yeah,
there were villains going out. You think they would be like, hey, could we just stop some of these during the fights or something? I don't know.
That's a good point. And then I was also thinking about, would Harry and the other MJ show up? I know that Harry dies
Yeah, but shouldn't he? Because the other people died. So
I know.
shouldn't
Yeah,
they all come
yeah,
back.
Yeah,
so
but I think Doctor Strange said only a few of them got through or
That's
something
fair.
before
That's
he
fair. That's fair.
sealed the spell or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
MJ
is a
didn't
huge-
try hard enough.
Yeah.
Which is a huge gripe for me because like I just feel like Doctor Strange was extremely irresponsible in this movie, but also the fact that he just quickly blamed Peter for everything going wrong.
yeah, he didn't really explain the spell before he started doing the spell.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it kind of just like made everything mess up. Like the trailer kind of makes it seem like it's all Peter's fault that everything went wrong, but then you kind of, when you're watching it, you're like, oh, you didn't explain that everybody was gonna, like, all his family are not gonna remember he's Spider-Man. That's kind of an important detail that might have affected his decision to go through with this. So I get that.
For two extremely intelligent people, they did not think things through.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just it kind of throws me off a little bit, especially since a lot of the plot like deals with Peter like feeling responsible for the situation.
Yeah.
I feel like as an audience, as someone watching it, I couldn't feel that because I felt like most of the blame was on Doctor Strange.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, at least.
Exactly. And I still find it hard to believe, going back to the whole college, what's it called? Basically trying to get college applications. I found it hard to believe that there wasn't a college application. It's like, yo, you're Spider-Man? Well, we love superheroes. Why don't we know?
It was the whole like thing
Mysterio.
with Mysterio convincing everybody.
That's
that,
true.
Honestly, I didn't feel resolved about that. Like,
but even with that, I still would think, because again, superheroes are loved in this universe, so there has to be some people who are like, well, we like Spider-Man. He did this X, Y, Z. So there should have been some.
It might be like it might be like a controversial thing, because I'm sure there's still some people. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
But
like, couldn't they have digged into the evidence? Like,
yeah.
Like looked at who Quentin Beck actually was. He still has.
Exactly.
He still has Edith.
Yeah, but we're talking about like general perception of a situation that is not, that where the details are not clear. Like we know that in the real world.
Yeah, I know that, but
there's cancel culture.
Cancel culture. That's basically what I'm talking about. It's Spider-Man got canceled.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's not that unbelievable to me either.
But I don't know. I guess the way he was being treated in in his high school and whatnot made me think there's enough love that he's getting for him being Spider-Man, and that again he worked with the Avengers, and this world everyone loves the Avengers and all that. It just, it seems too weird for me to think that this person who's done, there's more good, even if he did this harm, there's more good than he did harm, to the point that there has to be some college. I know it's cancel culture, but they didn't go that route.
2022.
This is
what.
Well, technically, it's after 2023 in this universe.
Exactly. So cancel culture is worse.
It's even worse.
It is, but I feel like there's enough good to justify people wanting him to. I mean, if that woman, if he saved that woman, she was already going to turn him. How much more people could have just been like, "Oh, we love you. We did everything. Here's his stuff." So
I mean,
and
sure.
at the same time, we didn't really see them fight for it, or at least fight to clear his name.
That's true.
Which is my issue. With
that's another thing.
Because like, I just feel like they could have done way more with that instead of just letting Mysterio get his way. It just felt like, people throwing bricks saying that they believe Mysterio seemed ridiculous.
Yeah.
That, he wouldn't try to clear his name in any way. Like, he just didn't. He didn't try at all. So that was one thing.
You could argue he didn't have
me.
time. I know. Wait, he did have time.
Yeah,
I know. He
seemed like
had
he
enough
had
time to
a lot of
argue with
time.
MIT, maybe, but didn't.
Yeah.
No, a good amount of time passed.
Yeah, a good amount of time passed.
From when the Mysterio event
You're
happened
right.
to when they're
exactly.
applying for college stuff.
Yeah.
Typical high schoolers think they don't have time. Wait till you're in college, dude. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like you have more time in college.
Nah, dude.
I suppose this is a little bit of a gripe, but it didn't make sense. The J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons thing. I guess that they just used the same actor for a different J. Jonah Jameson. But I was thinking they were going to explain it. and they really didn't.
Oh, so you thought he was from like Toby's world?
I mean, I thought that maybe there was he is from Toby's world. He is from Toby's world, but you know, I guess it's just a different J. Jonah Jameson, but the same actor.
It's different. It's just a different one.
Yeah, it'd be cool if there's one other person where that same situation happened.
Yeah,
where it's like that universe's like person, but it's the same actor from like.
Yeah, that would have been a good joke with Toby being like, "Oh, so Jameson's still the same."
Yeah, that could have been interesting if they had like a little interaction.
Yeah.
Oh man, if he was like Parker. But then that wouldn't make sense. So I it's not a big deal, but I was kind of disappointed with that. And then the other thing was the end credit scene or the mid credit scene with Venom. It really didn't make sense why he got pulled in. Somehow the symbiote knew, I guess, that who Peter Parker was. And I guess because the symbiote knew, Eddie Brock got pulled in with it.
Yeah, so now you're referencing like the end of Venom, right?
Yeah, so the end credit of Venom.
The symbiote says like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know
that guy? And so they didn't really explain that either.
And did they retcon Tom Hardy? Like, did they like end that?
I guess so. I guess so. So yeah, there are definitely a couple of plot conveniences that they kind of just like, oh, this is not gonna make sense, but we'll just throw it in there. Yeah. Just to throw it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Flint Marko just didn't seem like he like the Flint Marko I knew from Spider-Man 3, the one who, had that moment with Toby at the end. I feel like he wouldn't have attacked Toby like that. That's something that I did not like. Like, especially after Toby was like, Flint, it's me, we're trying to help you. And I'm sure he would have stopped at that point.
He's like, you're trying to deceive me.
It just seemed silly. It seemed really silly.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but I guess going back to that, one thing I did like was the Doc Ock and Toby scene, because it was it's kind of like seeing your college or your old teacher. Hey, how have you been, teacher? Oh, good.
How are you, my boy? Doing better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Or even the scene with Will Dafoe doing science with the Tom Holland. Like I liked it because it does remind me, because Will Dafoe does look like he's
he's something of a scientist himself.
No, not that. But then even then, Tom Holland.
Did Andrew have that shirt?
Yeah. Something of a scientist.
Yeah, exactly. But I like it because, it's like I feel like both of them fit that kind of like, because again, Toby, he always looked like he was a college student, and then obviously, Andrew's a good actor, but I just feel like, obviously Tom Holland looks the most, to me, identical to Peter, but then obviously Andrew Dafoe is like identical to the Green Goblin. Will Dafoe. Andrew Dafoe. Identical to Green Goblin. So that scene was like, oh my God, it feels like if we can make a perfect movie where we can cast the villain and the hero, it's like, it was one of those moments where the casting was just perfect, and it married me of Spider-Man. So again, there's much love to this movie and hate. So
yeah,
there's so much to love about this. And while it's not, I don't think it's, I thought about it, it's not number one for Marvel movies for me. It's definitely not like top 5 comic book movies of all time for me, but it's definitely like up there with the best Marvel movies that there are. It might be top 10 comic book movies for me. I got to think about it.
Because like for us, story is king. So like we're being very technical about like what things are making sense and what doesn't, and like what the rewatchability and who's gonna enjoy this. But like there is some stuff that like can never be taken away as far as like the way that it made us feel. Yeah. And I still appreciate this movie regardless of like whatever shortcomings. You know?
Literally every moment with Toby and Andrew, I was eating it up. I was just like, it was like surreal for me. I was just like, I can't believe I'm seeing this.
Yes, I agree.
I can't wait. I'm just like so excited to watch it again. But like I know the whole first part. I'm gonna be like, okay, let's go. I need to see my Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's like the rewatchability. Like I know the whole like beginning part. I'm just gonna be like, let's get past this.
I have to rewatch it again just because there's so many times where the theaters cheered. I couldn't even hear dialogue. Like when Toby and Tom, not Tom, Andrew came, literally there was so much yelling. And then even when he takes off the mask, it's like, what are they saying?
I was actively like shushing people because I'm like, what is he saying?
Oh man, yeah, but it was great. I did have like a weird theater experience where there was a guy behind me who had already seen it, and he was like, every so often he would like quote the line before the actor would say it. And I was just like, this guy is.
Oh, I would have stood up and be like, hey, shut up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that could ruin the entire experience. Dude.
I tried to
like,
not let it
who does he think he is? No, really,
like,
I would have said like, hey,
whispering it
not?
loud enough for it to carry in this quiet theater, and so I was like, ugh, it was bad.
I'm sorry,
our theater was just loud the entire time.
Like, but everyone was like respectful. No one's
sure.
like,
Like I thought it was a good thing. I didn't think it was a bad thing. It was at the right moments, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think that's part of the Marvel premiere experience.
Exactly,
and it's a good thing
for a good movie, you know.
Yeah.
We
definitely
all watched,
no cheering in Eternals.
we all watched Eternals. We all watched Black Widow. This was something special for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah, we good.
Well, definitely let us know in the comments what you thought about this film. Hopefully you've seen it by now. If not, we just spoiled everything. But yeah, definitely let us know, and we'll get back to you in the comments.
Peace.